Have you ever wondered why the funniest people in the world are usually the ones hiding the deepest wounds? If you've watched Friends, you probably think of him as the group's funny guy, the class clown, the guy who just makes jokes, does weird dances, fills uncomfortable silences with that awkward giggle, and has a job that nobody truly understands for 10 whole years. But you're wrong. You are dead wrong. Because beneath that thick, laughter-filled mask of Chandler Muriel Bing lies actually one of the most tragic and psychologically damaged characters in television history. In a few minutes, we are going to dive into the dark truth behind those endless jokes. We'll uncover what that sarcastic attitude was actually shielding, and the secret Chandler desperately held onto to fool us all. Once you learn that secret, you will never look at another Chandler joke the exact same way again. You will hear the silent scream behind those laughs. But before we get there, welcome to Scene Atlas. In this episode of our Who Is series, we are stepping into the mind of New York's most melancholic comedian, the man who built his armor out of sarcasm. If deep character analysis is your thing, if you love it when psychology meets pop culture, smash that subscribe button down below right now, turn on notifications, and sit back, because this journey is going to be much more jarring than you think. Now let's go all the way back to the beginning. Why does Chandler Bing constantly, and I mean constantly, make jokes? Remember what he literally said in one episode? "Hi, I'm Chandler. I make jokes when I'm uncomfortable." Guys, that wasn't just a standard sitcom punchline. That was a straight-up confession. Chandler's humor isn't some harmless, innate talent. It is a meticulously crafted defense mechanism for survival. But against what? Why does he feel the need to defend himself? Let's look at his childhood. Thanksgiving. Right in the middle of a happy family portrait, while cutting the turkey, a 9-year-old boy finds out his father is running away with the pool boy, and his parents are getting a divorce. Imagine that child. At that table, it wasn't just a marriage that ended. That little boy's trust in the world shattered into a million pieces. His world is collapsing, and in that exact moment, his brain makes a decision to survive the pain. If you don't take it seriously, it can't hurt you. If you make the joke, nobody can laugh at you. That heavy armor of humor was forged right there, at that table. That's why he hates Thanksgiving. It only reminds him of abandonment. That's why whenever there's an emotional moment or real intimacy in the room, he instantly sabotages it by cracking a joke. Because in his dictionary, emotions equal abandonment, vulnerability, and pure pain. So did this defense mechanism protect him? As a kid? Maybe. It got him through those crises. But in his adulthood, this armor turned into his biggest prison. It built an insurmountable wall between him and the rest of the world, especially when it came to one thing: women and romantic relationships. Let's talk about that infamous fear of commitment. Chandler's relationships in the first half of the series are a total disaster. He ends a perfectly going relationship just because the girl's nose is too big, or her head is disproportionate to her body, or because she talks too much. He obsesses over the most ridiculous, meaningless details. Do you know why? Because Chandler isn't actually looking for perfection. Chandler is looking for an excuse to leave. The toxic cycle in his head is always the same. Eventually, they are going to get to know the real, flawed, broken me, and they are going to leave. So, before they leave, before they hurt me, I need to find a stupid reason and run away first. And that is exactly why he goes back to Janice over and over again. A character who is his complete opposite. Loud, annoying, but someone who will never leave him. She sticks to him like glue, because Janice is safe. Even if she gets rejected, she comes back. But Chandler's ultimate character break, his massive transformation, wouldn't come from Janice. It would come from much closer, from right under his nose. We're getting to that breaking point, but this part is crucial. Guys, everything I've told you so far was just Chandler's defensive, terrified side. The truly fascinating part is his character evolution, how he climbed out of the dark pit he dug for himself. But before we get to that legendary comeback story, a quick reminder. If you're sitting there thinking, wow, I've watched this show 5 times and never thought of Chandler this way, and if this video pulled you in, do the right thing and subscribe. I see the stats. Most of you watch and run. If you're subbed, you're a legend. Let's keep going. Let's get to the turning point of his life, London, a failed wedding night, and Monica Geller. Did you know that Chandler and Monica getting together wasn't just a cheap writing trick to shock the audience? It was a massive sledgehammer destroying the thick walls Chandler Bing had built brick by brick for years. Because Monica was the exact opposite of the traumatized child's biggest fear. Monica was organized, she loved rules, she was maternal, controlling, and most importantly, unlike Chandler's parents, Monica was a rock-solid character who would never abandon her home or destroy her family. Her obsessive perfectionism became a solid anchor for Chandler's chaotic inner world.
By the way, quick detour here. We are talking about Chandler's incredible character growth and this perfect home he built with Monica.
But what if none of this is real? What if all 10 seasons we watched, the warm friendships, Chandler overcoming his trauma, what if it was all just a tragic, drug-induced hallucination of a homeless Phoebe living on the streets? We have a mind-bending video on our channel exploring that famous, incredibly dark Phoebe's dream theory. You absolutely need to jump to that video, which will pop up in the corner after this one. I swear, you will never look at the show the same way again.
Back to Chandler. In his relationship with Monica, we watch Chandler transform from the cowardly guy running from responsibility in the early seasons to a partner taking charge and planning a proposal. Remember, there was a Chandler who panicked and tried to pack his bags the very first time he and Monica had a serious argument, because in his vocabulary, an argument meant his parents' Thanksgiving fight and the permanent divorce that followed. But the moment Monica turns to him and says, "Don't be crazy, we just had a fight, we're not breaking up, that's how relationships work," that is the moment the terrified, traumatized 9-year-old Chandler truly begins to grow up and heal. So what was that dark secret and the lie he told himself for years that I mentioned at the beginning of the video? For years, we saw him working in a corporate plaza, surrounded by gray walls as a transponster, which obviously isn't a real job, doing statistical analysis and data reconfiguration, a safe job that he despised, that he hated waking up for every Monday, but one that paid well. Why did he sit at that soulless desk for years? Because Chandler didn't value himself. He thought, I am nothing. I have no skills other than being funny and making people laugh. So even if I hate it, I have to stay in this safe, boring loop. He buried his potential and his life energy in that office, just like he buried his emotions with sarcasm, until he was banished to Tulsa, miles away from the love of his life and his friends, and finally slammed his fist on the table on a lonely Christmas night in a gloomy hotel room. Chandler quitting his job and starting over from scratch in his mid-30s as an unpaid intern in the advertising industry alongside kids half his age. That right there is one of the greatest peaks of character development in television history, because advertising was the exact place where Chandler turned his lifelong armor into pure talent. That cynicism, those clever wordplays, that quick-fire absurd humor, they stopped being defense weapons meant to push people away and transformed into the ultimate tools of a brilliant, creative copywriter. On that day, Chandler defeated his trauma and turned it into a gold medal. And we cannot pass by without mentioning his legendary, heartwarming friendship with Joey, paying for all of Joey's expenses without hesitation, paying his bills, acting as his financial and emotional sponsor for years for his endless acting dreams. Why? Because he was a sucker? No. Because Chandler found the unwavering loyalty and warmth he never got from his broken family in the family he chose, his friends. Joey wasn't just a roommate across the hall. Joey was the sheer innocence and joy that the wounded child inside Chandler wanted to protect. Chandler took on the role of the reliable father figure for Joey, the father he himself never had. To wrap it up, guys, while Chandler Bing seemed like the most shallow, sarcastic, commitment-phobic character on screen in the beginning, by the season 10 finale, he evolved into the most mature character, married, adopting kids, boldly rebuilding his career, and absolutely unafraid of taking responsibility. The true main character of Friends, the one who experienced the biggest, most painful, but most beautiful growth, was secretly always Chandler. He was the living embodiment of turning the pain behind the masks into power and love. Chandler Bing faced his ghosts and his fears, and managed to build his dream home. But what about the rest of the group? Was everyone as lucky or as brave enough to face themselves? For example, how about we talk about the guy who always thinks he's right? The guy whose intellectual arrogance and nice guy image actually hides a massive inferiority complex and a sick, toxic fear of abandonment. The arguably most psychologically toxic character in the entire show. What was the real root of that pathological jealousy, the controlling behavior, and the constant urge to sabotage Rachel's career behind the screams of, "We were on a break"? Yep, you guessed it. In our next Who Is episode, we are stepping stepping into the complex, infuriating, and dark mind of Dr. Ross Geller. To make sure you don't miss that legendary breakdown when it drops, do not forget to subscribe to the channel right now and hit that bell. Also, that dark Phoebe's Dream Theory video that will make you question your entire childhood just popped up right there on the screen. Click that video now and let's keep going down the rabbit hole. That's it for now from Scene Atlas. See you in the dark corridors of a new mind in the next episode.